Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today is my last topic. We are going to introduce medical research methods. Okay. So, this topic will introduce how to write scientific writing. First, I would like to introduce the writing technique in general. So, talking about scientific writing, it is a style of writing that answers a basic scientific inquiry, which means that that's different from the writing in our diaries, not like writing the fiction journals. It's right for answers for the basic scientific question. So there is basic requirement for the scientific writing, including it should be clear, concise, objective, and accurate. So here shows three different sentences, maybe talking to the same thing. The water is very, very hot. As you can see, there's two exclamation mark here. So this sentence, when you read it, you know that it's very, very emotional. And the next one is the water is hot. Although it's not emotional, however, it's not concise. And the last one, the water is 128 degrees. So this one's not only objective, but also precise. I'm sorry, the internet is not working very well, sorry. Let's continue. So for the scientific writing, it should be clear, concise, objective, and accurate. And next, the writing should follow an established format of scientific logic. Usually, the scientific writing are divided into four different parts. The first one is introduction. Then the next will be methods. The third will be results. The last one is discussion. So not only they have a scientific logic for the writing, but also it should contained appropriate spelling, grammar, science, sentence structure, correct syntax, and special scientific style are expected. So scientific writing is not just write as you want. They have their basic requirements. And someone said, if I can do experiment very well, I can get very good data, but I don't want to publish it. However, a research study is incomplete if not published. What's the benefit or advantage for publication? First, it can advance the knowledge of field and profession, share information, and you can educate others. So you can benefit the knowledge in the field. And also for more private reason, you will have the significant benefits to oneself promotion. For example, in the university, each of the professor need to publish their data and get published so that they can get promotion. And also, with more and more publication in good journals, you can have the you can be recognized by more peer reviews, and you can be well known in the field, right? And also establish your reputation in the field. However, scientific writing is not easy. This is the common complaint from my student. One man said, I want to write, teacher, but I'm a terrible writer. Someone said, I don't know where to start. I could never finish writing an article, a paper, or a book. I start a sentence, but don't know what to say next. Even for the writer, the expert, they sometimes think the words come out you like toothpaste sometimes. So writing is not easy, even for those professionals. The difficulty of writing can lead to a negative cycle of writer's block and severe procrastination. I said, maybe I can start tomorrow, maybe a few days later, maybe next week, and then next month, maybe you will get now never start writing. So if you cannot solve the problem, it will cause procrastination. Okay, then how to solve this problem? First, you can find a writing Zoom for the writing. First, create a conducive physical environment for the writing. For example, you can schedule a block of time devoted to writing. Notice that at least 3 hours, more than 3 hours, usually 3 to 5 hours is suitable for the time writing, because you need to have some time to start the writing and get the correct feeling and then keep going. So 3 to 5 hours are suitable for writing. And then also you need to minimize disruptions. For example, you can silence your phone, don't think of any emails, avoid any visitors. You need a quiet area for the writing. And also watch where you eat. That's because sometimes stress begets hunger. When you feeling the stress for writing, maybe you will try to eat more, and then eating may distract your focus on writing. So watch what you eat. And also you need to create a conducive mental state. Free your mind of distractions. For example, don't think of the housework, don't think the bills, and also know your habits. Are you a morning person, or do you prefer writing at night? And then think about what work best, how to work best. And also, do you work better after exercise or after a good sleep? Do you need a tea or a coffee? And know your habits may help to write more efficient. And our disruption, whether external or internal, will cause extra minutes to get back into the writing Zoom or worse. For example, you start writing and write a few sentences, and then you pick up the phone, and after talking to your friends for example for 10 minutes, and then when you get back to work, you already forgot what to write, and you need to read what you have written on the computer, and then find the same logic idea again, and then get back to writing. So it takes more time to get back. So try to avoid any disruption, and so that you can focus on writing for at least 3 hours. That can help you finish the work better. Okay, get started. How to begin? First, I think the good idea would be organize a plan before writing. Organize the message in writing. Half the writing effort is usually taken by the thinking process. This means that organizing the thoughts first is half the battle. So having a plan beforehand, organize their thinking and the subsequent writing. So know what you are going to write and then start. That would be a good idea. And then organize a schedule to write. Usually break the writing into realistic, discrete stages. For example, an easy way is to set daily or weekly goals to finish sections. For example, I plan to take 1 week to finish the introduction part. I will take 2 days to finish the materials and methods part. Maybe take another 1 week to finish the results part. Maybe take 2 weeks to finish the discussion. So try to organize a schedule. Then you have an aim to complete, and then help you to break the writing into realistic different stage, and then you may be successful in doing so. Next, organizing strategies of the message. How to organize the message? Here are some common methods to do so. The first one is the brainstorming. So brainstorming usually list of flowing ideas, and it is a problem-solving methods by generating random and unrestricted thoughts. The second one is clustering way. Also, it is called the concept map. Usually, organized no method when the ideas are unknown. They are used when the ideas are unknown, but unsure as to how to put them together. And next is the issue tree, also called the flow diagram. This method is used to check for balance or emphasis of the topics. The last one is the outline, developed the article's framework. This common method is used to check for balance or emphasis of topics. So I will introduce each of the methods one by one. Okay, first, this is one example. Think of that. Our geneticists has spent 4 years in their identification of a single point mutation that controls a form of abnormal bone growth. So one scientist spent 4 years and find that a single point mutation can cause abnormal bone growth. And what he did, then he used in vitro culture bone cells coupled with immunofluorescence and transgene expression, and links this gene mutation to impairment of the microtubules during mitosis. That's what he done. He used the way in vitro culture cells, and then he find that this mutation can impair the microtubule during mitosis. And then he has completed the literature search and written a summary of the abnormal bone growth. Overall, he is convinced that the new findings are important to the scientific community, particularly pathologists, researchers in bone cancer, and genetics, and is anxious to publish the findings. So if you are this geneticist and you already have this form, then you want to write this article, how to organize all this information. So the first one, if you will use the brainstorming method, to begin, the geneticist organizes his thoughts using brainstorming with his collaborators. So as I mentioned, the brainstorming means list all the free-flowing ideas, right? So first, he write down, it causes a deformed vertebral column. And then he can talk about the details of the natural gene mutation, right? And he think, oh, I'm glad that I don't have it. Now, that's the free idea. And also he can write it down. And also because it's a genetic mutation, the gene mutation, so it cannot be corrected by surgery. And for writing the paper, he can compare course, race, gender, and age. And also he can describe molecular targets regulated by the gene mutation. And he can show a radiograph about the abnormal bone growth and also patterns of occurrence. For example, what's the age of the patient? Are they old? Prefer to happen in the older age or in the young age, about their gender, about the race, and the occurrence in long bone versus the flat bone. Also, he can list all the methods used. So using this brainstorming method, you can write down any idea coming to your mind. So you can write down any idea. So when you start writing with this brainstorming, list all the 3 ideas and then choose the most important to write as an article. So this is how to organize the thoughts using the brainstorming. Next, you can use the concept map to organize all the information you have. So the central idea for this research is you find an abnormal bone growth, right? So first, you can describe about the phenotype, the morphology and the symptoms, the medical history, and you can talk about the treatment. We cannot treat that with surgery. And how about the drugs? If there's target drugs, how about the efficacy and the side effects? How about the cost for the treatment? And also you can describe about the natural gene mutation, talking about the epidemiology and the frequency across race, age, gender. And also he have performed the in vitro study, right? So here he can talk about the culture cell studies, how he designed the protocols, and how, he make the single point mutation and construct of transgenes, about all the data that he can discuss. So using this concept map, you can know that which will be the emphasis of your paper. You can handle it, how to write the manuscript later. And then another one is the issue true. Here on top, you can write down the topic of the manuscript is then about the abnormal bone growth. And here talk about the phenotype, the treatment, the natural gene mutation, and also the in vitro study about the experimental protocol, and also all the methods you use. So using the issue tree, you know about how to write the emphasis of the paper. You know you need to spend more pages writing the in vitro study and describe the results and talk about the conclusion about this in vitro study. And the last one, maybe it's the most commonly used for most of the students, writing the outlines. Here you can list all the idea as shown in the manuscript, usually include the introduction, materials and methods, and results and discussion. And for the introduction, you can talk about the basic background for your topic. For example, in this example, you can talk about the disease phenotype, show the radiography and the histology and clinical symptoms. And it's about the natural gene mutation. You can talk about the process of natural gene mutation, how it happened in all different races, gender, and different age people, and also describe the experimental results reported by other groups and the hypothesis of your study. And then move to the materials and methods, what kind of materials you used and what experiments protocol you design, and then talk about the results. And last, explain your results in discussion part. Okay, then after you organize the message using either brainstorming, concept map, issue tree, and outline, and next you can structure all the information into the research article format, and then organize a schedule to write. Set achievable goals. I think that's very important. Don't make it too hard to achieve. So you set achievable goals, and an easy way is to set daily or weekly goals. Start with the easiest sections that are more stylistic. So For example, writing the material and methods, and then write the results. Usually, for most of the students, the materials and methods should be the most easy way to start the section to start, because you have already finished the experiment. So then describe the materials and methods should be the most the easiest way to start, because just write down what you have done and then describe the results. So write the results part and then go back to the introduction. Then the last section, I think, would be discussion. So you organize a schedule to write and then start to write. Don't stop writing until that goal is reached. This is to guarantee a feeling of accomplishment and keep the momentum going. So organize your idea, structure them into the article format, and then have a schedule and then start. That's what you have to do. So there's two major types of scientific articles. The first one, I also show you the first example is the American Journal of Circulatory Physiology. As you can see, if you have read this journal, you will find research articles, perspectives, reviews, innovative methodology, and editorial focus, and letters to the editor. So that's different sections in the journal. As you can see, that's more focused on the basic research. And another type of scientific article journal will be, the example will be the respiratory and critical care medicine. So as you can see, they include the basic research, the research articles, concise clinical reviews, and also the clinical commentaries or pulmonary perspectives, case reports. So case reports, I have introduced that in my first class. That's a clinical study, right? And then the editorials and letters to the editor. So the second journal is more focused on the translational medicine or the clinical studies, so which more focus on the disease and their clinical relevant. So this is two different scientific articles. One more related to basic research, another one more related to the clinical studies. So next, introduce the ranking of the journals. So as you can see here, there's one concept for the rating of the journals is the impact factor, the IF. Usually we write IF for abbreviation. Here in this table to the left is the name of the journals, the journal title, and then this ISSN, just like the ID for each of the journal, and then the impact factor is for the ranking of the journal. So the impact factor is a measure of the frequency with which the average article in a journal has been cited a particular period, usually 2 years. That how to calculate this impact factor? Usually the total citations divided by the total article numbers, that is the impact factor. So it means within 2 years, if a journal publish 100 articles, they get 50 citations, and then 50 divided by 100, then their impact factor will be half, 0.5. So that is the impact factor. So articles include research articles, reviews, briefs, case studies, and so on. So all of the articles in the journal are the total articles here. And then each of the citation, calculate them together, and then you can calculate this impact factor. So why impact factor can be used for the rating of the journals? Let's think about it. If they have a high impact factor, which means that most of the manuscripts in their journals have been cited by others, so they are more well-known, they are more famous, right? So those are good journals or good publications. So with higher impact factor, usually the journal is better. So they all the scientists use this impact factor to rate or to rank their journals. So impact factor is a useful tool in ranking journals. As you can see, the famous journal Nature, it has a very high impact factor, more than 40. And this system, this impact factor system has been developed for a long time. It's first developed in 1960s. It's very old, right? Founder of the Institute for the Scientific Information, ISI. And let's see the positive attributes of the impact factor. It can eliminate bias favoring large journals over small ones. What does that mean? So if the journal is a large journal, for example, every month they published 10,000 articles, because the number are big, are large, and their citation rate should be more because they publish more paper. So more people have a higher chance to cite those papers, so they will have a higher impact factor. However, if they all the total citation divided by the total number of their article, then they can eliminate this bias saying large journals over those small ones. And also the impact factor can eliminate bias of frequent journals over those less frequent. So if those journals publish more, for example, every month or half month, they publish one issue and they have the larger total number of publication, then the citation will be higher. However, those publish only once every 2 months, and because they have fewer manuscripts, and then citation will be low. Then when compare those frequent journal over those less frequent journals, then they will have the bias, right? So if we divided the citation by the total number of the articles, then can eliminate the bias of the frequency of the journals. Last, the impact factor can eliminate the bias between the older and the newer journals. As the older journals, they have better reputation, for example, and they may publish more, or they may have more submission. So the citation should be a little bit higher. And the newer journals, because they are less well-known, so the submission of the publication should be less. So when we compare these two different older and newer journals, use the impact factor can eliminate the bias between them. And the limitations of impact factor, not all articles are cited the same. Usually the review papers, the reviews have a higher citation because this layer summary of a lot of studies, so they have more information in their publication. So the review paper have a usually higher citation. Then if journal A include the review publication, however, journal B only published experiments, then the impact factor of A and B should be different. Usually the impact factor for A should be a little bit higher because they include their higher citation reviews, but the journal B don't have that. So the first limitation of the impact factor, not all articles are cited the same. So if the publication types, the manuscript types in two different journals are, one include a review, another one don't include a review, that should cause a little bit bias about the ranking. So the second limitation of the impact factor, as I mentioned, review articles are cited more frequently than other publications. And last, the self-citations, whether intentional or not, artificially inflate impact factor. So when we calculate the impact factor, we don't count the self-citations. For example, if a big group of scientists, they publish a lot of papers every year, and each of their own publication, they cite their previous study, then that's called self-citation. This citation don't mean that their manuscript is really well known by others, but just by themselves. So this is self-citation. However, when we calculate the impact factor, the formula for calculation would be total number of citation divided by total number of the articles. So when you calculate this impact factor, you don't know the self-citations are included or not. So the self-citations can artificially inflate the impact factor. So this is the limitation of the impact factor, although they have a little bit disadvantage or limitations, but this impact factor is still in use for the ranking of the journals. Then next, talk about writing succinctly and clearly and accurately. So writing to communicate science, scientific writing is not literary writing. So you have to be objective, concise, clear, and accurate. First, scientific writing is difficult in this way. First, the scientific content is already complex. You are working on something very complicated. For example, the mechanism of the cells work together, the pathology of the disease, the drug target confirmation. So the content for the writing itself is already very complex. And then vary levels of unfamiliarity of topics and terminology audience levels, which means that the readers, they have different levels of readers. Some of that are expertise in this field. However, some of them are only the young trainees in the field. So they have different understanding about the knowledge of this field. So they may have different difficulties in reading these scientific writings. And also some of the readers may experts in this field. For example, some of the pharmacists reading the paper about a clinical study, so they are not completely the experts in this field. So the very levels of unfamiliarity may course for during their reading. For example, the scientists vary in background and specialty, and others not reading in their native language. For example, I'm a Chinese, but most of the time I need to read the publication, the scientific writing in English. So I'm not a native speaker, so sometimes I have difficulty in understanding the sentence. And also the young trainees, for example, the graduate students, the postdocs, and the undergraduate students, they have different understanding about the topic. So writing to make sure everyone can understand that would be a tough job. And sometimes the general public may read your paper too. So for different levels of the reader, you need to write very objective, concise, clear, and accurate scientific writing for everyone. That's not an easy job. Then how to do that? Try to avoid the mumble speak. What's the mumble speak, including the nuts and bolts and the language you use. I will introduce all this one by one. First, a sufficient and clear sentence. So this is one example. You can read it first. I give you 30 seconds to read this sentence. So what's wrong with this sentence? First, do you think it's a good sentence or not a good sentence? So first, as you can see, this is a very, very long sentence. If you count all the words in the sentence, there's totally 61 words in this sentence. And then, as you can see, too many thoughts in the sentence. Let's read. First, the authors reported that direct stimulation of the epithelial cells with thrombin cause a dose-dependent increase in migration. So here says the target cells would be the epithelial cells. The authors give a direct stimulation now with this thrombin and then cause a dose-dependent increase in migration. This one thought, right? And then this migration will persist for more than 12 hours at higher doses. That's a second idea. This migration can last for a long time and then return towards baseline at lower doses. So this effect depends on the dose of the thrombin stimulator. And then they perform the Western blot analysis, another thought, also indicate that they express high levels of thrombin receptors on the plasma membrane. So that's another thought. First, stimulate with thrombin and cause migration. That's the first thought. And then this migration can last for a long time at higher dose, the second thought. And then the third thought would be at a lower dose, that this migration can return towards baseline. And then they perform the fourth. They find that the Western blot analysis indicate that expression of the high levels of the thrombin receptor on the plasma membrane and the nuclear membrane. And then number 5, they find that this increasing of the expression of the receptors do not return to baseline. So the whole sentence, they have 5 different ideas. They talk about 5 things. And also they use a lot of conjunctions and their phases are not that logically related. It's not clearly related. So this is a bad samples to writing a sentence. So the long sentences, as you can read the last page, reduce the readability and comprehension. So the long sentence, what we can call the long sentence, if the sentence have more than 40 words, and if they contain too many thoughts. For the example, last page, there's 5 thoughts in just one sentence, and it has 61 words in one sentence. And they overuse the conjunctions, for example, use too many and, too many but, and too many however, and so on. Overuse of punctuations as connectors. Last sentence, they use a lot of commas, right? And then thoughts are not tightly related to each other. So that's a very, very bad samples. And then on the other hand, if the sentence are too short, are also not a good idea. Another extreme is a paragraph with a sustained stream of extremely short sentence, which can be choppy and annoying. So you just read and stop, just read and stop. That's an annoying thing. And strive for a balance of sentences of varying length within reason, which helps sustain the reader's interest. So try to use proper length of the sentence can increase the interest for the readers to read your paper. So this is an example, a good example in Journal of Cellular Biology in 2007. Although it's a very, very old paper, but it's a well-written paper. So I choose it as an example to explain how to write a good sentence. So this is the first paragraph of the paper. You can spend maybe 1 minute to read it. Okay, as you have read this paragraph, this is the first paragraph from the introduction of the manuscript. As you count, there are only 6 sentences in this first paragraph of the introduction, and each of the sentence, the first one has the 26 words, and then 21, and then 8, 25, 23, and 20. So it has a suitable length of the sentence, and each of the sentence, they are logically related to each other, and each sentence, they only have one idea. For example, let's read the first sentence. Atherosclerosis, that's the name of disease, usually have the clots in the vessel, so the vessel are blocked and cause the further side effect in our body. So the atherosclerosis involves the progressive accumulation of lipids, immune cells, and extracellular matrix in the vessel wall. So this accumulation course can decrease the blood flow or rupture to cause acute thrombosis. So there's only one idea, the accumulation of some things in the vessel, and then can decrease the blood flow and cause acute thrombosis. So it's only one idea in the sentence. And then next move to the pathology of this, or the reason to cause the atherosclerosis. It's the endothelial cells. So the endothelial cells dysfunction is the key initiating event in the atherogenesis. So the endothelial cells dysfunction is the reason, or is the important reason for the development of this disease, resulting in decreased flow-induced dilation and inflammatory gene expression. So first talk about the disease, and then talk about the reason. That's because the endothelial cell dysfunction caused the disease. And then talk more about the cells. The activated endothelium recruits monocytes, which differentiate into macrophages. So this dysfunction endothelial cells can recruit the immunocells, macrophage. And the next sentence, elevated permeability of the endothelium is believed to around entry of the lipoproteins into the vessel, which become oxidized and propagate endothelial dysfunction. So that's a complicated process, include the endothelial cells and the macrophage, and it will change the permeability of the cells and lead to the damage of the vessel. And next, talk about why that this happened. That's because the macrophage can engulf the LDL and other lipoproteins and become the full cells and causing the plaque inside the vessel. So as you can see, each of the sentence ranking from 8 words to 26 words, not very long. Each of the sentence are logically tightly related to each other. When you read this paragraph, you can see the logic flow of the author. The author talked about the disease first, and then the key component to causing the disease is about the endothelial cells. And then the endothelial cells will react to the macrophage together and cause the development of the disease. So the idea is very clear. As you can read each of the sentence, you can read the logic flow of the author. So this is the good way to write sentence. Only one idea per sentence, not too long. And then the previous one and the later one should be logically related to each other. That's a good sample for writing sentence. And then let's talk about the voice for the writing. The active voice usually is easier for understanding. There's 2 voices conveying the same intended thought here. If using the active voice, the great white shot attacks the server. And this one is easy to understand. The white shot attacks the server. And if change it into the passive voice, the server is attacked, hit by the great white shark. So compare these two sentences, what you have found. Which one is more easy? It's easier to read. Which one is easier for understanding? The active voice, usually the subject is doing the act. The words appear in the sequence in which the events happened. On the other hand, the passive voice, the subject is being acted on. The word order is not the sequence of events as they occurred, so forcing the reader to unconsciously unscribbled the backward construction. So you need to rephrase the sentence in your brain so that you can converting back to the order of the subject, verb, and object before understanding it fluidly. So which one is easier to understand? Yes, the active voice is easier for understanding. So our ease in reading and comprehension depends on a great degree on the word order. So that's why sentences in the passive voice take mental energy and make it difficult reading of already difficult scientific articles. So to this point, if you can write your sentence in the active voice, then try to write in the active voice because it's easier for understanding and it can help the readers to understand the difficult scientific articles better. Okay, here when to use active and passive voice. So the active voice allows for greater readability than the passive voice. So more precise and less wordy, adds energy to the writing. The passive voice is appropriated if the entity performed the acting is unknown, is irrelevant, and emphasis is needed. However, the passive voice is lacks effective communication. So here, I have a practice together. First, changing the passive to the active voice. The first one, it might be expected that this drug would be harmful. So if change this sentence from the passive voice to the active voice, what should it be? We expect this drug to be harmful, right? Then we can reduce from 10 words to 7 words. Then the second one, no tissue was available for the pathologist to examine. So this is totally in 9 words. Then the pathologist have no tissue to examine, then reduce 2 words. And the third example, vaccinations were performed on 100 preschool children by Dr. Smith. This sentence has 10 words, then reduced by changing to the active voice. Dr. Smith vaccinated 100 preschool children. Then the next one, a collecting trip was made by the marine biologists to the Pacific coastal region for the purpose of connecting sea anemones. So this is a long sentence with 21 words. Then if we change to active voice, it will be the marine biologists connected sea anemones in the Pacific coastal region. So reduce 10 words totally, and much easier for us to understand. The last one, paragraphs 1, 3, and 10 were marked for vision by John Smith. Then can change John Smith marked paragraphs 1, 3, and 10 for revision. So when you do this exercise, and you can find changing the passive to the active voice make the sentence shorter and also easier for the readers to understand. So if during your writing, if you can use the active voice, try to use active voice instead of the passive voice. Okay, next common mistake will be the dangling modifiers in sentence. So here, one example, let's see what is the intended meaning in the sentence. 2 microscopes were reported stolen by the campus police last night. So if you see this sentence, what do you think? You don't know if the campus police stolen the microscopes, or they only reported the stolen microscopes, right? That it causes misunderstanding for different readers. Someone may think the campus police stole 2 microscopes last night. Some may think only the campus police reported 2 microscopes are stolen last night. So you don't know which one is correct. The second sentence, 2 microscopes were reported stolen last night by the campus police. Still a misunderstanding, still in the sentence. You don't know if the who is the thief. And then the last one, if you put the modifiers in the correct location, that you can avoid the misunderstanding. Here, this sentence C is the correct one. 2 microscopes were reported by the campus police to be stolen last night. Then there's no misunderstanding anymore. We know that the campus police only report the stolen of 2 microscopes last night. They are not the thief, right? So if you put the modifiers in wrong location, then you can cause misunderstanding. So this error we called dangling modifiers. Modifiers are words or phrases that expand, limit, or make more precise the meaning of other elements in a sentence. Dangling modifiers are those inappropriate placed in a sentence, causing confusion and ambiguity. So here, more exercise. Let's do it together. The first one, for sale, a bench top table suitable for researchers with thick legs and large drawers, which is the modifiers in this sentence. It would be with thick legs and large drawers, right? However, these modifiers just wrong place. They should be after a bench, right? So the correct one, for sale, a bench top table with thick legs and large drawers, suitable for researchers. It's much more better, okay? Then next, lying on top of the intestine, you will make out a small transparent surgical trend. Improve it. You will make out a small transparent surgical trend lying on top of the intestine. So next, using our inoculation procedures, infected hamsters developed granulomatous. So improve it. When we use our inoculation procedures, infected hamster developed this granulomatous, and even better, our inoculation procedure produced granulomatous in infected hamsters. So the last one, we use the active voice and also correct the danglers. So this one is much better. So when you find this dangling, then you can correct by moving the dangling modifiers closer to word or phrases it modifies. Okay. The next error would be the jargon. So jargon means a specialized slang from overuse or misuse of obscure, pretentious, or technical words and phrases, resulting in a pompous and ritualistic and pretentious style, which means that you use big words to scare your reader. That's the jargon. So here, for example, this sentence is very long. From time immemorial, it has been known that the ingestions of an apple, which means the plum fruit of any tree of the genus Machinus, such fruit being usually round in shape and red, yellow, or green in color, on a diurnal basis will with absolute certainty keep a primary member of the healthcare established as absent from one's locational environment. So after you read this long sentence, you have no idea what's Well, I don't know. I cannot understand. But if you don't use those big words, just change. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. So you can use readable words for the readers. Don't use the jargon. Don't use the big words to scare your readers. And next, an incredibility insatiable desire to understand that which was going on led to the demands of this particular Phyllis catus. Just means curiosity kills the cat. So don't use big words. Some other, this is the extreme examples, but some other common jargons in our writing include the common thread, state of art, keep in mind, by a wide margin, by a clear margin. On top of this, that's all the jargons. Just delete it. Jargon may be used in our day-to-day speaking, but it has no place in scientific writing. Okay, next ever would be the verbiage. It means the excessive and meaningless words. They are the empty fillers. They are verbiage that is mostly pointless, adding many words with no addition of meaning to the sentence. Often the phrases begin with it and ends with that. They can be deleted or replaced with one that takes the least space. For example, to the left is the empty fillers phrases. For example, the first one, it would thus appear that, just replaced by apparently. The second, it is considered that, just replaced by we think. The third one, it is this that, just use this. And it is possible that the course is in light of the fact that it's a long sentence, just said the course maybe, or just use because, it's okay. And it is often the case that, just use often. And the rest of the four phrases, just delete, you don't need that. It is interesting to know that, just taught the fact, don't mention interesting of things or impossible or unlikely. Those just empty fillers. The next adverb would be the hiccups. Hiccups are short words or phrases which unnecessarily complete words and other parts of the sentence. Words, they sometimes repeat the meaning. For example, here shows the example, 1 a.m. in the morning. Everybody know that a.m. is in the morning. So you don't have to say 1 a.m. in the morning. That's repeat the meaning. It repeats the meaning. Next, large in size. Obviously, absolutely, complete. We know that complete means 100% finished, right? So you don't need to absolutely, obviously, and red in color. Optional choice. We know that if we have a choice and something is optional, right? So all these phrases just repeat the same meanings in these phrases. So this is called the hiccups. Try to avoid to use hiccups or show the hiccups when in your writing. Next, try to find the verbiage and jargons in this sentence. This is an apple a day keeps doctor away. But if you don't know that old saying, just use the common sense to remove the verbiage, how to say that. So it has been known that, that's the empty filler, just delete. And also the plum fruit of any tree of genus Merlus, you don't need that. And then round in shape. And then certainty and absolute, they repeat meaning. So this is the first one. The second one, following termination of ambient exposure, there was a substantial incrementation in noun value. At this moment in time, it would appear that there has been a marginal degree of improvement in diffusing capacity. So what is the verbiage phrases in this sentence? At this moment in time, right? It would appear that. So this is the empty fillers. You just delete them. Okay, next talk about the use of person in scientific writing. So when we write our article, you can use the first person and use the second person or the third person singular for the writing. Here, the personal point of view. We hypothesize that, we think that our findings indicate that this is used the first person angles for the writing, right? And then the in-person point of view, the authors are prepared to recommend that the authors wish to find that it is postulated by the author that. So either way is fine, but just use only one way in the writing. Otherwise, you will confuse your reader. Here shows some examples. Let's read the first one. Okay, give you 50 seconds to do that. The first one. The authors established the proteomics core service in 2005, and we have expanded it ever since. So what's the problem with this sentence? So the authors established their core service, and then we expanded. So we don't know that we and the authors one and the same, right? So when you revise this sentence, you can rewrite it this way. We established the proteomics core service in 2005 and have expanded it ever since. So then change this we to the authors. Then we know that it's we do all these things. We set up or establish this center service and then expand it ever. And next one, we have achieved a level of work in the laboratory where one should do more experiments. So we and one. Does this mean we intended to do them, or are we suggesting others should do them? So revise it. We have achieved a level of work in the lab where we should do more experiments. So the next one, it is postulated by the author working alone and writing herein that we have discovered a new gene. So the author working alone and we have discovered a new gene. So that's confusing, right? Is author really working alone? So change it. I believe that I have discovered a new gene. The last one, the laboratory technician will find that the new procedure is an improvement. You will not need to sterilize the skin. So confusing. Who really will not need to sterilize the skin? So laboratory technicians will find that the new procedure is an improvement because they do not need to sterilize the skin. So don't confusing shapes in pronoun use. Otherwise, you can confuse your reader. Next, talk about the tense used in the research article. Scientific ethics indicates the appropriate tense use. Published work is established knowledge, so the work must be quoted in the present tense. Next, the unpublished work, the work you are writing in this manuscript, is yet to be established, and it is described in the past tense. So example, when you cite a published finding, streptomycin inhibits the growth of the tuberculosis, and then because it's already published paper, you cite it. So you are talking about the established knowledge, so you use the present tense. However, when you describe the unpublished findings, the optimal growth of streptomycin was 32 degrees because it's unpublished work. So writing describing your results or talking about the methods you have performed and use the past tense. So here, this is still that example from the Journal of Cellular Biology. So in the introduction section, because the authors were talking about the background of this study. So they cite a lot of published data. So here they use the present tense. And then in the results section, because they describe the experiments they perform in their paper. So this is the unpublished knowledge. So here use the past tense. So the appropriate tense used for scientific writing for the introduction part mostly use the present tense. For the materials and methods, mostly use the past tense. For the results, mostly the past tense. For the discussion, when you describe the study you found in your lab, then use the past tense. If you cite the publication by others, then use the present tense. So for the discussion, it will be a mixture of the past and present tense. Also for abstract, it's a mixture of the past tense and the present tense, but still have some exceptional. For the title or subtitles of the section can be in present tense. Some abstracts use present tense in describing its work. Correct to use present tense when referring to tables and figures. That means in the results part, for example, table 1 shows that, then use past tense to describe the data, but the table 1 shows that, or the figure 1 shows that. So correct the use of present tense when referring tables and figures. So a general conclusion or statement can use the present tense. Okay, this is constructing a title. It's talking about a title. So here, there's 2 titles in 2 different manuscripts. The first one has 11 words, and another one has 20 words in the title. The first one, metric-specific P21 activated kinase activation regulates vascular permeability in atherogenesis. The second one, cigarette smoke increases toll-like receptor 4 and toll-like receptor 9 expression and induces cytokine production from CD8 positive T cells in chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So read this title, you know that this was the study about and the key findings in the whole manuscript. So this is good examples for constructing a title. So the title must be interesting, concise, accurate, and informative. It should be long enough to be informative, but don't be too long. And short titles have greater impact than the long ones, but not too short. Often, title length is limited by the policy of the journals, usually no more than 100 characters. And how to decide is it a good title or not? You can ask yourself, will readers be able to judge the paper's relevance to their own interest on the basis of just the title? A good title passes this information readily. So this is a good title. Okay, then let's move to the body of the research article. So because the whole research article includes abstract, introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion, and illustration, and references. And materials and methods, results, and the illustrations and references were differently for different publication. So I only introduced the writing about abstract, introduction, and discussion. Just introduce the main idea, how to write these parts. First, abstract. Usually the abstract will be at the very beginning of the manuscript. The abstract is the only substantive part of an article indexed in electric databases. What does that mean? When you search for most of the databases, it's the only part to read for free in most of the database. So at times, it is the only section readers read. Some for myself, I will run through a lot of manuscripts, only their abstracts. If they do not relate it to my work, if they are not enough interesting enough, I will pass them. So sometimes it is the abstract is the only section the readers will read. So it's very important. So there's two different format for the abstract. One is with subheadings. For example, this one has the background, methods, results, and conclusion. And this one is in one format. There's different formats for the abstract styles. That one, when you write your paper, if you choose the potential journals, then you can read author guidelines in the journal website, and then you know that which type of sub-abstract they require. Then based for their required, then you write this abstract. So there's two parts you need to figure out differences. The first is the abstract. It is an abbreviated version of the whole paper, written for people who may never read the complete article. On the other hand, the summary and conclusion usually located at the end of the whole paper. It restates the main findings and or conclusions of the article, and it's written for people who have already read the paper. So this is two different parts in the paper, and then have different functions. You need to know the differences between them. So as you can see, the abstracts at the very beginning of the manuscript, the conclusion is at the end of the manuscript. And as you can see here, one more example. This is introduction. This is their conclusion. So what's in an abstract? An abstract is a synopsis of the key elements of the entire article. It can stand alone on its own merit. So sections on introduction, so it should include all these sections in the abstract. The first is the introduction, second is the materials and methods, and then the results and the discussion are each briefly summarized in the abstract. The content of a 10 to 12 page paper is distilled into 100 to 400 words. It should not introduce new information, illustration, nor citations in the abstract. So the abstract has the introduction. You can use 1 to 2 sentences to introduce the background of your study, and then write your hypothesis. And then you can generally describe the experimental design and methods you use in your study, and then summarize the main finding, the main results of your study. And then last, use 1 to 2 sentences for conclusion. So this one is the example. Maybe spend 1 minute to read it. Okay, 1 minute to read this manuscript. Okay, so you can check the components of an abstract in this example. First, they introduce the background and then describe the experimental they done, and then describe the results and then have their conclusion. As you can see here, first, elevated permeability of the endothelium is thought to be crucial in atherogenesis. So this is the background because it allows circulating lipoproteins to access subendothelial monocytes. So this is the background. Then both local hemodynamics and cytokines may groomed endothelial permeability in atherosclerotic plaque. So this is the background. What's known in this field? And next, what they have done. We recently found that P21 activated kinase regulates endothelium permeability. That's their previous study. Then they have their new hypothesis. And now they have key findings, including first, onset of fluid-flowed atherogenic flow profiles, oxidized LDL, and proanthosclerotic cytokines, or stimulate PAK phosphorylation and recruit to cell-to-cell junctions. And then second finding, including the activation of the PAK and in vitro the PAK, and then inhibiting this PAK can reduce the permeability. So they have 4 main findings in their study. And last, they have their conclusion. Matrix-specific PAK activation therefore mediates elevated vascular permeability in the atherogenesis. So this, as you can see, this abstract represents the whole study. First, the background in this field, what they have done and what they found and what's the key conclusion of the study. So even though you don't read the whole manuscript, you still know what they have done, why they do so, what they have found, what's the conclusion for their study. That's their example for writing the abstract. So the abstract reflects the essence of the entire study. So make sure that only the most important points are included. Details in the material and methods are significantly streamlined. No new information, no references, no illustrations. Sentence should be concisely and clearly written. Sentence contain no or minimum verbiage or jargon, because usually the journals will have the word limitation for the abstract, usually 150 to 400. But most of the journals, they require no more than 250. And then for the introduction part, it provides the why you decide this study, why you do this experiment. So it draws the readers entices the readers by setting a persuasive tone and being to the point. Then important to have strong open lines. The tone in the introduction part is to entice or awaken the reader's interest. In order to do that, the introduction should be direct to the point, as short as possible, with clarity and informativeness, and has good readability. So this introduction part just tell the reader why you do this experiment, what's the background in this field, what you are going to do, what's your hypothesis. So what does one write in the introduction? It's look like an upside down pyramid. First, tell the known information, the background of the field. Then the unknown tells what's the unknown in the field and why you do this study. And then your own hypothesis. And sometimes some of the authors would like to state the strategy for solving the problem and tell the main results in the introduction. But the last 2 parts are optional. For my style, I usually don't write the last two parts. I only tell the know, the unknown, and say the hypothesis, state a hypothesis of the study, and then move to the next part. Okay, arguments for the unknown. So the unknown is what is not yet known. The topic is being it could be the topics being challenged by others. It can have the potential information new in the field. The current knowledge is limited and incomplete. The current knowledge has gaps in our understanding. New or different techniques around the testing the idea. So just in this section, you need to make sure that the readers know the purpose of the whole study. Then here is the example, still that JCB paper. So here talk about the atherosclerosis, the note information. The development of this disease involves lipids, the vessel wall rupture, and then it's related to the endothelial cell dysfunction, and then it will increase the permeability of the vessels, and it's related to the dysfunction of the macrophage and development of the plaques. And then the second paragraph is talking about the unknown. The first sentence states that the molecular mechanisms involved in the flow-induced endothelial permeability are unknown. And then talk about the potential mechanisms. And last, tell about the hypothesis. In this work, we investigate the role of the flow and the extracellular matrix in endothelial permeability in this disease. So this is talking about know, unknown, and then your hypothesis. That's the methods to write the introduction. Sorry. Then the last one would be the discussion part. So this is a story. It's a experiment done in the primary school. The scientists show two different cups. The first cup is a worm in the water and it can survive. And the second cup is a lot of vodka, and then the worms die. The scientists want to, through this experiment, they want to show that alcohol is a bad thing, it's toxic. However, they ask the student, what's the conclusion for this experiment? The students answer, if you drink vodka, you will not get worms. That's a wrong interpretation, right? It's not the primary purpose to do this experiment. So what's this story point? Do not leave to change the chance. Do not leave a chance for others to interpret your data. Do not assume your reader will understand the key points or interpret the data as you intended or recognize the significance. Therefore, it is the job of the discussion to interpret the data appropriately and as intended. So the discussion is structured. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's not a rambling mixture of thoughts. It's not simply repeating what already described in the results. So it is usually the most difficult section for the writing. So usually for myself, I've left this discussion at the end for the writing. A new writer may feel it difficult to write, but how to do that? Here, I give you some idea. First, the beginning part. You can answer the central hypothesis. Did the results support hypothesis? Because you have stated hypothesis in the introduction part, and then you describe your results. And here you can answer the central question, did the results support my own hypothesis? Provide the data that support the answer. If yes, what is the primary supporting evidence? If no, what is the primary unsupporting evidence? The beginning is a powerful position containing the most important information. So try to use one paragraph to answer if you have, did the results support or not the hypothesis. Then the middle section interprets the data, how the results are supportive, if not supportive, any alternatives, how the results fit in the existing knowledge. How do the research of each data set related to each other? And some specific points for discussion in the middle session. You can point out the exceptions, lack of corrections, and so on, and point out how results are disagreeing or agreed with the published work. Compare the finding of your own and the others, and discuss how to resolve the differences. Discuss the limitation of your work. Discuss the theoretical implications of your findings, the future perspectives, the directions, the questions to be addressed. So then, to the ending of the discussion, you can restate the answer to the central hypothesis. You can also state the significance of your study. For example, why or how the implications, the conclusions, why they are important in the field. The ending, if done well, should remove the so what symptom. So everybody, after reading the ending part of the discussion, they agree with you that your study is well done. You already finished study and give your own correct conclusion. So with the ending, if doing well, you should remove the so what from the readers. So last, writing the research article beyond the science, you need to keep the concise, clear, accurate writing style. Use the proper sentence length and logic. Avoid danglers. Try to use the active voice. Avoid the pronounced shifts. Minimize the verbiage and the jargon. And for physiology, philosophy of the perfectionisms, you should keep an unbiased tone. Minimize aggregations of results, not judgmental, but objective. This one is very difficult, but you try to remind yourself during the writing. You are describing the results. You try to reason the conclusion, however, stay in the objective way to do so. Let the readers have their own judgment during the reading. So try to write it in an objective tone and be pinpoint accuracy. That's difficult, but try to do that. So that's all about the topic today. I think improve the writing is not an easy thing. You need to practice and practice. Try to read more manuscripts and then try to practice by yourself. And I think that will improve your scientific writing skills. So far, I have finished all the 8 topics about my class. That's all for today. Also, if you have any questions, welcome to send me emails. Thank you so much for everybody. Thanks for the class for the last 8 days. Thanks. Okay, see you.